Hoi, it's louisity again, and for this book tag, I'm going to be doing the Underhyped Books book tag. Hurrah! So, I found this book tag from Jesse the Reader, my booktube idol, so I was like, this is a great opportunity to share books that are not much talked about. And FYI, it's raining right now here in the Philippines, so in Metro Manila specifically, so bear with me, but I'm going to try my best to speak loudly for y'all to hear me. So, without further ado, let us begin! Every now and then on my channel, I always say the Shah series or the Pandala series by Rashi Chakshi needs to be more popular or known by people in this planet. And I've only read the first 3 books. I have yet to read book 4 and book 5. And if you were to ask me which among the 3 will I choose or the one that I would highlight, I'd have to say Shah and the Song of Death by Rashi Chakshi. It's interesting because this is the sophomore book or the second book in the series, and usually the expectations are not being met. When second books come or the middle book syndrome appears for trilogies. Although this one is not really a trilogy, so it doesn't really necessarily fall under the middle book syndrome, I guess. But I have to say that this one really satisfied me. I gave this 4.75 out of 5 stars. And I'm going to be putting down the links of my book reviews and my reading vlogs, which describes more of my reading experiences. But I'd have to say, among the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, I know that Arsha is one of the popular ones, I think, in terms of numbers, but I think that it deserves a lot more hype. So yeah. Mary H.K. Ch's works need to be read by more people, especially those who are into reading young adult or teenage contemporary books. I love the fact that usually she has deep dark topics, if that's what you would like to call it, yet they are being talked about not so severely over dramatic. You can tell with the simple storytelling that she has in most of her text, you can still see how it's still vivid, what the topic is, what are the challenges that the characters encounter, for example in Emergency Contact, one of the characters is surviving trauma and impermanent record. Although it has a lot of romance in it, the main core of the story is about finding oneself. What do you want to do in life? So I really want Mary H.K. Ch to really, write more books, as well as for people to read more of her works. So. Paulo Coelho is really popular when it comes to his work, The Alchemist, but I'd have to say that especially for people that are very curious about the entertainment industry, whether it's acting, being in a band, and let's say being a content creator, in whichever platform you're in, I think that people should be reading or talking about the lessons, topics that happen in The Winner Stands Alone. I think that it does deal about fame, or what happens when your fame is being deprived, what happens with, about people's values basically in respect to life, because there was this really weird character here. And although this is kind of a weird comparison, because I think that these 2 books deal with 2 different topics, but I think that fans of Daisy Jones and the Six might enjoy Winner Stands Alone, and it is written in a different kind of, you're looking for something a little bit different in terms of the writing, because this is a literary fiction, so there might be chances where it might be different compared to what a typical historical fiction or a contemporary fiction is written. So, but yeah, I really enjoy this because it does deal with a lot about fame and all that stuff, and the ending is pretty interesting. So FYI, there are still books in my previous book hauls that I haven't read, so Yes, I'm going to be exposing myself a little bit in this part of this book tag, but it was really hard for me to choose because I personally believe that a lot of the books that I bought or presented in my previous book hauls are underrated. I mean, most of them for me are underrated or not that popular compared to, say, books like Beach Read or Colleen Hoover books, Emily Henry books in general, and Sally Rooney books, if I'm making any sense, or Brandon Sanderson books, just to name a few popular authors that I see, anywhere and within my echo chamber. So it was hard for me to choose which one am I going to be picking, because I do believe that there are books in my book haul that are underrated and that I'm excited to read. I mean, obviously that's why I bought them, because I want to read them. But just to be safe, because I've already read a book from this author and I liked it. I've read Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee and I liked it, and I'm going to choose for this prompt Tiger Honor by Yoon Ha Lee. Now this is the companion novel to the Dragon Pearl series. So Dragon Pearl is a middle grade preteen sci-fi Korean mythology space opera kind of inspired book. So I'm excited to read this one. I do treat it like a series still, even if I know that some people say this is a companion one, but I do think that you gotta read Dragon Pearl before this one. And I'm gonna be putting my reading vlog experience, or my experience in my reading vlog. The link will be somewhere in the description box, so you will know more about my reading experience, why I liked it. And yeah, pretty much I'm excited to read this one. I mean, this is one of the books that I'm looking forward to. And as you can see, I haven't read it. It still has a cling wrap because I want my books to be covered in plastic cover just so that they are protected. And yes, my mom wants me to have these books be covered in plastic by her, because I'm not really the best when it comes to covering books with plastic. So she wants to interfere, and she's kind of busy, so yeah. But I'm excited to read this one, Tiger Honor by Yoon Ha Lee, which is a preteen / middle grade Korean mythology inspired space opera. So I noticed that romance genre or contemporary romance genres are the ones that are quite popular these days, whichever age group, mainly the adult ones or maybe even some young adult or teenage ones. I don't really see middle grade doing romance, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section if you know a middle grade romance by any chance. But yeah, and I know that some fantasies are still popular, so I'm going to go with a genre, and I'm going to point out a specific age group, which I don't think, is known that much in terms of this genre, and that would be middle grade historical fiction. I don't really see that much being talked about, whether within my echo chamber, whether in the internet space, or even outside of the bookish internet spaces. I mean, if I just look around bookstores, or say maybe in the internet space, but more bookstore pages, I don't really see a lot of middle grade or preteen historical fiction books being talked about. And for this prompt, I'm going to be choosing Botox by Candy Gourlay. Now, this has, of course, some historical fiction elements, or actually it's considered as historical fiction by the author Candy. It talks about the American occupation war, wherein there are two people who grew up in the plains and in the mountains, and they kind of see the other sides of the world. It's definitely one of the books I'm looking forward to reread. I remember reading this back in 2019. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be putting my wrap up of my Asian Readathon 2019 somewhere down below, just because yes, I have some of my thoughts there, a little book review. And it's interesting because it does tackle about companionship, because sometimes how at least based from what I remember the story, there are people within their group that have their own interests, personal interests in relation to power, which is Another thing that is being talked about in this book that I'm not sure if it's being talked about a lot when people mention it, this one, which really happens in society. You know, sometimes like doesn't mean this person is of your fellow skin color. It means they are like your ally all the way, if that makes sense. So yeah, but I definitely recommend this one. And I also want to read more books by Kenny Gourlay. I actually wish that I came to her book signing event, but I had another event that I had to go to. So, but anyway, I look forward to read her works and maybe someday meet Candy Gourlay. A really popular book that I thought about, you know, when I saw this prompt is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. So if you like To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, you might like I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Maureen Goon. I have a book review of To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I have a reading vlog of I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Maureen Goon. So yes. Now, these two have like different stories like all together, but their vibes are kind of similar just because they're both like teenage people here and they belong to like cultures like although like into All the Boys I've Loved Before, I know that their mother is the one who is Korean, but there's like a lot of Korean elements that were mentioned there, as well as here in this book. Of course, K-drama is like a thing here, so you might possibly get like the vibes are enjoyable, although they have like different kind of like stories altogether, because this one's more of like the this is more of like this girl Desi needs to be better in terms of romantic relationships, and she like creates this sort of list. You know, maybe it's because Desi is a strategic person, because she's like an achiever and all that in school, so maybe she was able to sort of apply that and create this sort of roadmap or strategy in winning this guy that she likes based on like how Korean TV series work. And it's interesting because it kind of like makes you think like a lot of TV series out there, whichever country it is from, they have like this sort of like a formula. Maybe that's the thing also in books. Just maybe like in a lot of books, there's sort of pattern that's going on. Let me know down below your answers to these prompts. And also, if you want to do this, well then, it's been a while for me to do this. Bam! Consider yourself tagged then. And if you've made it this far, leave an amphora emoji. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. I'll also be putting down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. As always, thank you super much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye y'all. Mwah.